As we know, fortresses are one of the crucial components in warfare. Fortresses are constructed as an effort to defend against attacks from other parties. During World War II, there was an advanced fortress stretching for 280 miles built by France. The Maginot Line is the name of the concrete fortress line belonging to France, constructed along the borders with Germany and Italy. Besides functioning as a defensive fortress, the Maginot Line also served as automatic weapon emplacements and tank barriers. But why did France find it difficult to build this fortress? In 1914 and 1918, France was involved in World War I alongside its allies. France was at war with Germany, which shared a direct border with France. In short, after World War I ended, France and its allies emerged victorious, but due to the 4-year-long war, France lost 1 million of its population, and the eastern region of Paris became the most chaotic due to being a battleground. To weaken and prevent another outbreak of war, a solution was devised to limit the German military personnel, and Germany was obligated to pay reparations for the war damages, which amounted to a significant sum. However, despite this, France still appeared unsatisfied and concerned that Germany might trigger another war for revenge. Differences of opinion arose among the top military officials in France regarding what should be done to anticipate a possible future German military invasion. A figure named Charles de Gaulle then proposed the idea that the French armed forces should focus on speed and mobility, so that if war broke out again, France could act swiftly. However, Charles's idea was not approved by other leaders, as adopting such an idea would make other countries view France as aggressive, leading to an arms development race. On the other hand, André Maginot, who served as the Minister of War, suggested that France should build a strong line of defense along the border with Germany. At this point, Maginot believed that this approach would not appear aggressive and would suit the condition of France, which was lacking military personnel at that time. Additionally, Maginot hoped that constructing a military barrier could help France repel a German invasion without deploying a large number of personnel. Maginot's idea eventually gained support from other military leaders, and the concept started to take shape in 1930, costing 3 billion francs. 2 years later, on January 7, 1932, André Maginot passed away from typhoid fever at the age of 54. To honor his idea, the military barrier being constructed was named the Maginot Line. Although many considered the Maginot Line to be a fortress, it wasn't 100% functional as a typical fortress. The Maginot Line wasn't a continuous, uninterrupted structure like traditional fortresses. Instead, it consisted of a series of interconnected buildings and complexes. These structures included fortresses, bunkers, artillery emplacements, underground tunnels, logistics warehouses, and anti-tank trenches. Initially, the Maginot Line was built along the French-German border. However, an idea emerged to extend the Maginot Line to include the French-Belgian border. This idea wasn't implemented because of France's political relationship with Belgium. Furthermore, France believed that the terrain along the Belgian border was too watery to be used for a defensive system. Instead, France only built small military posts along the Belgian border. In the year 1939, after approximately 6 years of preparing to start World War II, Germany surprisingly launched a lightning attack, known as Blitzkrieg, on Poland, and triggering the outbreak of World War II. It didn't take long for Germany to conquer Poland, which was unprepared for the assault. All countries, especially France, were shocked by Hitler's actions, as the swift Blitzkrieg technique led Poland to fall into German hands just 35 days after 1 September 1939. Due to Poland's military agreement with France and England, Germany then targeted France as the next conquest. While France would eventually be conquered as well, Germany was aware of the existence of the Maginot Line, which ran along the border between Germany and France. To minimize German casualties, German military leaders brainstormed ways to attack France without going through the Maginot Line. On May 10, 1940, Germany mobilized a large number of troops to invade the Netherlands and Belgium. British and French forces were then moved to Belgium in the hopes of stopping the German advance before they reached French territory. But unexpectedly, German Army Group B, which advanced through Luxembourg, Belgium, then went straight through the Ardennes. More than 1 million German soldiers and 1,500 German tanks crossed the Ardennes forest, which was supposed to be impassable. With an unprepared defense in the Ardennes region, Germany managed to break through the area that was initially thought impassable. Need to know, this success was partly due to the ingenuity of one of Germany's most esteemed generals, Heinz Guderian. Heinz Guderian had spent a considerable amount of time in the Ardennes during World War I, so he was very familiar with the terrain and was able to map out areas of possible bypasses. Now, the presence of the Maginot Line, once considered a formidable defense against German incursions into France, became less useful, as its concrete barricades could not reach the Ardennes region. After successfully breaking through the Ardennes and pushing back French and British forces in Belgium, the German advance into France became unstoppable. German troops who managed to enter French territory quickly crossed the Maginot Line, and as a result, on June 22, aka less than 2 months after the German invasion of the Netherlands and Belgium, France was forced to surrender to Germany. With the emergence of the French government's statement of surrender, it was quickly followed by the French troops guarding the Maginot Line. With France's submission under Hitler's leadership, the stockpiles of logistics and artillery weapons on the Maginot Line were then taken for the needs of the German troops and diverted to arm the Germans against the Allies on other fronts. 4 years later, in July 1944, Allied forces composed of American and British troops invaded Germany from northern France. German troops, who were increasingly cornered, desperately made every effort to hold back the Allied forces, and one of the efforts was to utilize the Maginot Line to slow down the pace of the Allied movement. The first battle between the Allied forces and Germany on the Maginot Line finally broke out in November 1944 in the city of Metz, northeastern France. Allied forces, which led by General Smith-Patton, managed to defeat the Germans in this battle, although the Allied side suffered heavy casualties. However, although the Maginot Line was known for its advanced defenses at the time, it was built by France to defend against a German attack, not the reverse. The Allied forces eventually won the battle and gained control of the entire Maginot Line in March 1945. After the collapse of German power in France, Hitler and his troops found themselves increasingly trapped in the final months of World War II, squeezed from the east by the Soviet Union and from the west by the United States and Britain. After the end of World War II with the defeat of Germany, the Maginot Line returned to the management of the French government. Some of the fortifications that make up the Maginot Line were then modified to be resistant to nuclear attacks. But along with the development and progress of the times, as well as the entry of Germany into the Western Bloc, which also includes France, making the situation of the Maginot Line less utilized. The fate of the Maginot Line then became increasingly neglected after France left NATO in 1966, because France preferred to utilize its military budget for the needs of other sectors. Now the majority of Maginot Line buildings are no longer used by the French military, and many parts of the fort are porous. The building has now turned into a historical place, a civilian building, and an empty place that is really no longer used. While the Maginot Line was initially seen by many as effective, in reality, this imposing barricade is just a useless piece of concrete. Thank you for watching the Explore History video about the Maginot Line defense. If there are any mistakes in the video, please discuss in the comments. Once again, thank you, and see you soon.
Using tanks